The anointed ones, welcome. The person who grins the most is usually the one who is bleeding under the armor, so be wary of them. What if I told you that one of your most vicious adversaries is concealing a terrible secret that might completely change the course of the game? Imagine their body slowly, painfully, and quietly betraying them as they hurl insults, make plans, and toss every dagger in your direction. Here's a fact. Research indicates that individuals who repress their illnesses often display more aggression, not because they're powerful, but rather because they're trying to maintain control. Now, direct that animosity on the people you have selected. Isn't it funny? It's be that the person pursuing you so assiduously lacks the stamina to pursue their own healing. The worst part is that they are not only concealing their illness, but also the weakness that may put a stop to the conflict they initiated. It's their last act, and the stage is collapsing under them. So pay attention, because this isn't just a struggle. The power of disintegration and concealment is the first. When someone conceals their illness, they are not just hiding a secret. They are using their silence as a weapon. Despite being aware of their vulnerability, they choose to hide it from others. They use this concealment as a barrier, a phony fortification, to keep others at bay. Although the illness slowly consumes them, they utilize their attacks as a means to cope with the agony, terror, and rage it brings. They're battling against everything they're losing control over, not just you. Ironically, the item they're concealing is their biggest vulnerability, but it motivates their most strategic actions. They behave with an intensity that is both urgent and purposeful because they are aware that their time, energy, or alternatives may be running out. They worry they won't have the opportunity later, so they give the fight all they have. Their illness turns into an unstoppable clock. So they concentrate on wreaking as much havoc as they can before the clock strikes zero. However, their seclusion has a deeper meaning. They would lose power if they disclosed their illness. They fear vulnerability because they think it would deprive them of control, and control is what keeps them upright. Since that's all they have left, they hold on to it even as it eludes them. They also get a perverse benefit by concealing their condition. It is more difficult to defeat someone who exudes strength and invincibility. You underestimate the holes in their armor the more they hide their vulnerability, and that's precisely what they want, because they want to take you down first, even when they're crumbling within. This is a desperate and secretive final stand, not merely a matter of survival. The second is the phony show of power. A well-crafted illusion is created when someone conceals illness while projecting power. They want you to see them as confident, powerful, and in charge. Yet, beyond that facade, they are battling issues they are afraid to discuss. Their look turns into a facade designed to keep others guessing and prevent them from collapsing under the pressure of their truth. The reality is that their alleged strength is based on fear and denial. They may keep their hold on power, even if it is eroding, by concealing their disease. To make up for the weakness they won't admit, they could behave more loudly, boldly, or dominantly. They believe that displaying weakness is unacceptable, as it would undermine the reputation they have fought so hard to build. Their aggressive behavior and audacious actions are often motivated by their internal conflict rather than you. However, they believe that assaulting you diverts attention from themselves. The work required to maintain this facade is exhausting. They don't have much energy left for real strength, since they spend so much time acting tough. Because the weight of their secret is smothering them, their behavior may even grow more unpredictable. Cracks start to show the more forcefully they attempt to emerge. Their fictitious strength is ironic in that it doesn't protect them from reality. No matter how loud or strong they become, their illness still persists and continues to eat away at them. Furthermore, by making such a concerted effort to conceal it, they are not only deceiving others but also themselves, postponing the inevitable. Their display of strength is not resilience. Rather, It is a house of cards constructed on borrowed time that will eventually collapse. The third is desperation-driven secret objectives. Desperation is the driving force behind the actions of an attacker who is concealing a disease. They have limited time, energy, and influence, which is something you are unaware of. They feel compelled to behave rashly as a result of such awareness. They're not only playing the game, they're putting all of their pieces on the board in the hopes that something will stay. This is survival, not simply strategy, and individuals who are desperate are dangerous. The stakes are bigger for them than anybody knows. For them, control is vital, and their illness, whether mental, physical, or both, is a continual reminder that they are losing it. That is the reason they attack so fiercely, pursuing the chosen ones with unwavering determination. They see power, energy, and time in you that they worry they will never have again. Their assaults are fueled by this anxiety, and they push harder as their illness worsens. They are also unpredictable due to their desperation. They're focusing on the here and now, about striking while they can, rather than the long term. They are irresponsible and prepared to transgress boundaries they would have previously avoided because of that thinking. However, it also makes them oblivious to the repercussions of their behavior. They believe they don't have time for prudence, so they don't care who gets caught in the crossfire or what bridges they destroy. The fact that they are motivated by a combination of resentment and fear, resentment toward you for still possessing it, and dread of what they are losing, makes their assaults even more lethal. Inside of them, the poisonous mixture causes a storm. They are determined to make someone pay for their actions, and when they aim straight at you, they are not only battling you, but also the clock, their own body, and the life they feel slipping away. The fourth is using compassion as a diversion. When a person weaponizes their illness, they turn it from a personal battle into a purposeful means of control. What begins as a concealed weakness may swiftly develop into a potent diversion that draws attention to their pain rather than their behavior. They may utilize their disease to change the narrative to their advantage once it is made public, whether on purpose or by mistake. All of a sudden, the assailant is the victim, and their actions are disregarded or justified on the grounds that they are dealing with a tough situation. This strategy is effective because compassion is a normal human emotion. Even the most critical people may be softened by empathy, and your assailant is aware of this. They may try to shift the responsibility by claiming that their illness is the consequence of stress, suffering, or a decreased ability to deal. If they have harmed you, they will use the excuse that they were going through a difficult time to minimize their behavior and paint you as uncaring for holding them responsible. They may even exaggerate or dramatize their condition in some situations, contributing to the notion that they are a misunderstood or mistreated person. By doing this, they may mobilize supporters and turn supporters and bystanders against you. It's about taking back control of the issue by appealing to people's emotions, not simply about avoiding responsibility. The effectiveness of this strategy is what makes it so risky. It deflects attention from their wrongdoings and fosters an atmosphere in which challenging them seems rude or unkind. In order to shelter themselves from repercussions, they take advantage of the empathy that may aid in their recovery. By doing this, they cloud the situation and make it more difficult for anybody to understand the reality of what they are doing. Their illness is more than simply a medical problem. It's a smokescreen designed to conceal their actual motivations. The poison of jealousy is number 5. Envy is a potent poison that may eat a person completely if they are concealing an illness. They see all they've lost or worry they'll never have again when they look at the selected ones, those they believe to be strong, healthy, or prospering. It's a deep, terrible animosity that intensifies with each reminder of their own deterioration. It's not simply envy. Their illness is not only physical. It is also mental and emotional, a festering wound that makes them angry. They may believe that they have been robbed out of energy, opportunity, or meaning by life. Their feeling of injustice turns into jealousy, and their anger increases as they see more people having the lives they feel should have been theirs. However, they externalize their suffering rather than face it, transforming it into violent actions directed toward the individuals who stand in for what they have lost. Their assaults are fueled by this jealousy. This is the reason they attack the chosen ones so fiercely, concentrating on destroying what they are unable to possess. Once concealed, their illness becomes the prism through which they see the world, in the belief that pulling others down would somehow level the playing field. They double down on their destructive impulses instead of seeking assistance or finding serenity, since everything and everyone appears to be a reminder of their perceived inferiority. The fact that jealousy causes people to become blind makes this much more poisonous. Instead of seeing the picked as human beings, they regard them as representations of their own shortcomings. Their assaults are an attempt to fill the emptiness created by their disease and animosity, not only to hurt you. Envy, however, corrodes rather than heals, and even while it may cause you pain, the person is ultimately harming themselves. The sixth is the anxiety of becoming irrelevant. A deep dread of becoming irrelevant is often associated with hidden illness. It may be excruciating for someone who has always thrived on authority, influence, or a feeling of purpose to realize that their sickness is gradually robbing them of these things. Whether it's their mental acuity, their physical prowess, or the authority and respect they formerly had, they sense that their hold on life is eroding. They act out in ways that guarantee they won't be forgotten because of this dread, which turns into a persistent, gnawing force. In addition to fighting against you, your assailant is also battling against time, notoriety, and their own death. They lash out because deep down, they think that they can at least make a lasting impression, even if they are unable to maintain their dominance. Their assaults are planned not just to cause pain, but also to cause turmoil that will linger for a long time and leave a scar that people will remember. They don't want to just go, they want their impact, their presence, even their devastation to endure. They may become erratic and irresponsible as a result of their desperation. Since they no longer believe that the long term relates to them, they cease to care about the long-term effects of their activities. Impact, immediately, at whatever cost, is what they demand. Once a personal battle, their disease now serves as a catalyst for their deepest anxieties and insecurities, motivating them to demonstrate their continued significance, even if it means causing damage or upsetting others. Tragically, this fear of becoming irrelevant causes individuals to lose sight of what really counts. They use what little energy they have left to destruction, rather than to healing, redemption, or connection. They are unaware that in their attempt to stay alive, they are guaranteeing that their legacy will be one of suffering and resentment, a shade, rather than the light they so desperately want. The last act of a shadow puppeteer is number 7. People often conceal their illnesses in an effort to keep control over how others see them. Some, however, are planning their last deed. It's more than that. They focus their energies on making a last attempt to leave their imprint because they know that their time, health, or influence is ebbing. Even if their assaults seem disorganized, they often have a secret objective, a well-thought-out strategy to make sure they are remembered, even if it is for the wrong reasons. These days, legacy is more important than survival. They want their tale to reverberate long after they are gone, not fade into the background. All of their actions and attacks are part of a frantic effort to steer the story. Their illness turns into a covert weapon that motivates them to do something remarkable before it's too late. Being disliked or feared is preferable than being forgotten in their eyes. They are prepared to risk everything, which is what makes this so hazardous. They play a high-stakes game, tugging threads in the dark to cause mayhem since they know they have nothing to lose. Despite their seeming randomness, their assaults are often well-planned and intended to make an impact. The irony is that their attempts to leave a legacy often overwhelm whatever positive deeds they have done. This is not only retaliation or resentment, it is their way of saying, "I mattered." They are characterized by their last act of destruction rather than by their achievements or abilities. Once concealed, their illness serves as the impetus for their desire to shape their legacy. In an attempt to solidify their position in the narrative, they wind up writing a chapter that is rife with suffering, despair, and tragedy, permanently linking their name to the mayhem they leave behind. The eighth is that they are more afraid of being exposed than of dying. Exposure is worse than death for someone who is concealing their illness. It's the loss of control over how the world perceives them, not merely the dread of pity or condemnation. The idea of their facade breaking is intolerable, since they have based their identity on strength, power, and invincibility. Their sickness threatens their sense of self and is more than simply a personal burden. Weakness is the height of shame for them. They think that all they've achieved for, every shred of respect, power, or influence, will fall apart if others see them as weak. Their pride turns into a stronghold, and they will stop at nothing to keep the illness contained. This is about more than simply privacy. It's about surviving in a society that views being visible as a sign of weakness. They act in excessive ways because of this anxiety. To draw attention away from their secret, they will intensify their use of hostility, control, or manipulation. They proactively attack others, as if continuing to strike would shield them from criticism. They refuse to remove the mask of their desire to project an image of strength, even when it is smothering them. However, they are also blinded by their fear of being exposed. They fail to realize that being vulnerable does not always equate to being weak. They further isolate themselves by pushing others away in their desperate attempt to conceal. Every deception and strategic action to conceal their illness serves to strengthen the anxiety that surrounds them. The terror of what the sickness signifies, loss of identity, loss of control, and loss of the power they have battled so hard to maintain, is ultimately what consumes them, not the illness itself. For them, exposure would entail facing these realities, which is more horrifying than anything their illness could possibly bring. The ninth is that their sickness is a reflection of their own depravity. What if their illness is a sign of something more serious than a simple physical condition? The very disease they're concealing may be an outward sign of everything poisonous they've allowed to grow inside of them, an expression of their internal sickness. They may have been harboring lies, dishonesty, and bitterness for years, allowing these feelings to fester until they are more than just thoughts, but something that consumes them from the inside out. Like their character, their body has turned into a battlefield for all the unresolved hurt and fury they have never faced. Every act of selfishness, treachery, and injury they have caused to others may be having an irreversible effect on them. Whether physical or emotional, the illness becomes a mirror of the corruption eroding their character. The poison they've consumed, the remorse and resentment that have changed them into someone they're not, are now more important than the things they've done. The fact that this interior deterioration often goes unreported is even more terrifying. Even as they portray themselves as strong and conceal their illness, the same toxin they refuse to confront is gradually eating them apart. Their body seems to be punishing them for the years they have been evading the truth, obscuring the repercussions of their behavior. Additionally, the corruption becomes more worse as the sickness progresses. The two perpetuate a vicious cycle of self-destruction by feeding off one another. However, they are facing not just the disease, but also the reckoning they have been evading. They put off facing the harm they have caused to others and to themselves every day they retain the secret. Their illness isn't only a condition. It's the cost of the things they've never made amends for. Their guilt is slowly eating them from the inside out, quiet but screaming. The 10th is the attacker's internal conflict. Your assailant is engaged in a far more intimate, internal conflict that is hidden from everyone else. They are not only battling against you or the selected ones. They are attacking from the outside, attempting to use force, dominance, or manipulation to win. Their body is betraying them in ways they cannot control. But behind that, they are fighting a war against themselves. They are trying valiantly to conceal this internal struggle, which is a ticking time bomb that is exhausting them both psychologically and physically. They use the exterior conflict with the selected ones as a cover for the inside turmoil. To avoid admitting their own physical weakness, they may snap or intensify arguments. However, the more they struggle against you, the more they are compelled to overlook the internal conflict. They must confront their weakness, death, and limitations in order to win this conflict, which they cannot win by force or guile. Their downfall will finally come from the concealed conflict. For a while, they are able to maintain the facade by displaying strength, assaulting without restraint, and concealing their disease from the public. However, as the struggle with their body becomes more intense, it starts to drain their strength, concentration, and determination. Their internal conflict will eventually seep into their assaults, making them weaker when they least expect it. The internal conflict will eventually become unbearable, and the person they have been trying to conceal from the world will collapse. The fact that they are fighting this internal conflict alone is what makes it so terrible. They are unable to share it, and cannot use force or deceit to overcome it. They are being broken from the inside out by the illness, which is making them more hazardous and erratic every day. And ultimately, their doom will come from this quiet, covert conflict with their own bodies.